Previously on Gears.
Important. This Formula One feature is proudly brought to you by Pirelli and Tiger Wheel and Tyre. Stand a chance to win a trip to any 2014 Formula One Grand Prix. You can find out more at twt.to. Otherwise, go to balls.co.za as well. Sounds terrific. So, here is a lady that I must say I've been following on the interwebs, because, you know, I'm very good on the Twitter thing there, Daisy. Been following her on the interwebs for almost probably a year now, and I think she actually is more passionate about motorsport than I am. She commentates on everything. Every
that's
single
awesome.
thing. So joining us from Cambridgeshire, or otherwise Cambridge, is the wonderful Bethany Andrews. Bethany, welcome to Gears on Balls Visual Radio.
Hello.
There we go. She's big voice as well. Bethany, we're going to talk Formula One mainly, but I mean, I want to know a little bit about you. What got you so excited about motorsport?
Originally, I wasn't very excited. I actually used to hate it.
Why?
I know, I scare everybody when I say that. And then I saw Lewis Hamilton.
A little bit of a crush on young Louis. He was
just really annoying Alonso, and I thought, oh, I quite like the fact that you're getting under everybody's skin.
Nice, and he's single. But never mind that. So
Yeah.
So, right. So, but now the whole thing about it is, before we talk F1, because there's so much going on at the moment, I mean, you follow everything.
Yeah, on and off, pretty much.
Because, you know, I thought I tweeted a lot, because I was checking the amount of tweets that I've tweeted, and it's about 71,000. Daisy, how many tweets have you posted?
1,958.
Take a guess how many Bethany's tweeted.
100,000.
139,000 tweets.
Wow.
So believe you me, when my timeline comes up, I get a lot of Bethany Andrews. And it's all terrific stuff as well. You have a great sense of humor, Bethany, especially about Formula One, because too many people take it too seriously, let's be honest.
At the moment, I'm just finding it a little bit boring.
Well, yes, because we've got that German guy in the front. That's the problem.
Well, half the time you forget he's leading the race because he's so far ahead. It's like, oh yeah, that person's doing this, and then you're like, oh, Vettel's like miles ahead, probably having a cup of tea.
Yeah, more than you could see. You could do a couple of other pit stops as well. But, you know, it's just one of those things. I mean, we've seen the domination before. We saw it with Ferrari back in those days. This one, you got to say, at least it's a little bit more exciting because there is some racing at least behind him.
Yeah, thankfully. I mean, people like, obviously Lewis had a horrendous qualifying the other day and he had to race to get into the points. Alonso and Webber are always fighting if they're near each other. Maldonado, I don't like watching. He scares the living bejesus out of me effectively.
Pastore.
I don't. If he gets anywhere near the back of a car, I'm like, oh God, is this going to end well or is it going to end in misery and another penalty?
Yeah, he is a little bit of a wild cannon. Now let's talk. Let's talk a little bit about Williams, because Williams is one of those really, really wonderful, iconic teams in Formula One. A British team, truly, truly British, and yet they just seem so troubled. I mean, who would you want to see driving in the Williams?
You could put anybody in that car and it'd probably still look as bad as it does right now. I don't really know what the issue is. I mean, if you put Alonso and Lewis in there, I mean, it might be a little bit higher, but I can't think it'd be that much.
Yeah, I know. They need some drastic help going their way. All right, let's talk about what's been going on in the last couple of last 24 hours or 48 hours. The big news came out late last night with Felipe Massa coming on to the Instagram airwaves and telling us that he was no longer going to be driving at Ferrari. Were you surprised?
I was surprised that he was allowed to announce it on his own back and that he did it so sort of far before the announcement. I don't know whether he's taken that upon himself or whether Ferrari did allow him to do that. If they did, then that's a nice move from them and it sort of sets him up for wherever else he may be going. If he hasn't, then he's kind of forced their hand to admit what they're doing now, which obviously it's not a very well kept secret and everybody knows what's coming out later in the day, hopefully.
Yeah, well, the rumor is hopefully it's going to come out around about 8 o'clock p.m. this evening. The big news of Kimi Raikkonen signing a 1 year with an option deal to go to Ferrari. Let's assume that this is all true because you never know. They could announce Hulkenberg. But let's say Raikkonen does go back to Ferrari. Two number ones in one of the strongest teams in Formula One. We saw what happened, and you got excited about it right in the beginning. Alonso versus Hamilton. Now you're going to have Alonso versus Raikkonen, and we know Alonso's temperament is a little bit suspect.
I don't think it's going to work. That's why I was convinced it was Alonso leaving, not Massa, because as we can see recently, he's been throwing his toys out of the pram again. It took me a long time to warm to Alonso because he does, for me, I always say there's a persona and a personality. We won't know the personality, but the persona they portray. And with him, for me, he came across quite arrogant. Now, I know, and obviously we now know that his issues were with McLaren, not Hamilton, but that he doesn't like having another number one. He doesn't like being challenged. He doesn't like the fact that the car's now not working and that he's not getting very far with it. So I don't really see how it's going to work if Kimi decides one day that he wants to win and Ferrari says, go on then.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, it's one of the riskiest moves I think Ferrari have made in the last 25, even 30 years, because maybe Berger and Alesi were sort of equal kind of drivers, but they weren't world champions. But since sort of Villeneuve and Jody Scheckter, way before your time, Beth, they haven't had the whole Schumacher era. They had Eddie Irvine, who we always knew played number two. We had Barrichello, we had Massa, then we brought in Kimi, then we brought in Alonso, and everybody played second fiddle. This is going to be one of the most difficult partnerships to manage.
I think they've probably got to the point where they're so desperate now that, and I put in my blog the other day, when did they become the best of the rest? It was always Ferrari and McLaren. Now McLaren aren't doing much either. At least Alonso's had podiums.
Yeah, listen, McLaren are going through a very, very tough time. Let's move on to them as well, because we've got McLaren and we've got Jenson Button, who supposedly is re-signing another 3-year deal. Is he the right man to actually lead that team?
With Jenson, I mean, he's had bad luck. He's had horrendous luck, but then at the same time, he's a one-off champion, and I think, yes, he's got a smooth driving style, but he's not. You need someone with that car to sort of take balls by the horns. Look what happened in 2009. I mean, Lewis was really struggling, but the car was still way above where it should have been to begin with. Whereas I think with Jenson, it's just sort of in the middle-ish, and him and Perez are constantly fighting.
I know.
That's not going to work.
Listen, that's the one thing I really do like about it, because it does add a little bit of spice. But Jenson's one of those drivers, if the car's perfect, you know he's going to be brilliant. But if the car's not perfect, he doesn't seem to be able to drive around those kind of problems like a Lewis Hamilton. That's why I ask. I mean, in my opinion, McLaren need a really, really top-notch driver. They need a Vettel, or they need a Lewis, or they need an Alonso, or they need a Kimi. And with the greatest amount of respect to Button, and he is a world champion, I just don't see them progressing much further with the current lineup.
No, I agree. And I mean, with Perez as well, Perez is a bit of a loose cannon at the moment, and I don't know, the setup doesn't quite seem to go. If they were to add someone in that was a bit more sort of grab it by the horn sort of thing, then maybe it would work. But with the current lineup, I can't see it getting any better in the near future.
See how we agree, Daisy? Are you listening to how magic this combination is already?
Yeah, it's awesome.
It's awesome.
Very happy for you.
Listen, we haven't got much time, Beth. I'm gonna throw one into you. Do you think anybody can catch Sebastian Vettel, or is it fait accompli, world champion 4 years in a row with the Red Bull?
They should have given him the championship trophy last weekend, as far as I'm concerned, because that ain't going to get any better.
Yeah, well, listen, I must agree with that sentiment completely. Well, listen, it's the first time that we speak to you, and I do hope that we speak to you quite often on the show, and you are welcome to join us anytime you wish.
Thank you.
And tell us, I mean, you write a lot of blogs. Do you want to just give us your blog website?
It's Behind the Visor at WordPress.
There we go. Behind the Visor, all one word, at WordPress. So I assume just go to wordpress.com and look up Behind the Visor.
Yeah.
All right.
I
Now,
would imagine.
so what are you currently studying? Or you graduating?
I'm not. I've graduated.
Graduated as a?
A BA Hons in English and Journalism.
Wow, there we go. So we're going to see you on the pit lane very soon.
I hope so.
We hope so too. Bethany, what a treat. Thanks very much for joining us on the show this afternoon. I do hope to speak to you very soon.
Thank you.
All right, bye-bye. There we go.
Bye.
Bethany Andrews joining us live via Skype this afternoon. What a sweet lady.
Very. And
Eh?
she's pretty.
Yeah, she's lovely. What a very, very nice lady. And of course, our Formula One feature was proudly brought to you by Pirelli and Tyre Wheel and Tyre. Stand a chance to win a trip to any 2014 Formula One Grand Prix. You can find out more at twt.to.
Win a trip for two to any 2014 Formula One Grand Prix of your choice. Plus, you can double your chances when you buy any 2 or more Pirelli tyres. Get to your nearest Tyre Wheel and Tyre to enter. Only at
Weekdays from 12 to 2 p.m. Central African Time.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Gears with Sasha Martinengo.